Welcome to day 4, the day we've dedicated to dream. And in our category of dream, we're touching on how to get beyond the physical realm, how to access the wisdom of our soul. And we've also got today our beautiful Lisa Winter going to be talking about sacred geometry and her creative spirit and bringing that creative expression in. So I'm really looking forward to touching this topic with Lisa. But for now, I just want to remind everybody, we really recommend that you take the time to really enjoy the videos. So if you've got your phone on, please unplug it, take any distractions away. And if you've got a journal handy, then you may want to jot down some questions, because after the video, we'll recommend that any questions directly for Lisa, you'll be able to connect with her on our dedicated Facebook page. So any questions around sacred geometry or the artwork that Lisa's doing, or even just getting to know a little bit more about Lisa, I'm sure she would be happy to connect with you in that space. We also, at the end of the interview, will let you know how to go to her website and any other ways if you want to connect on a one-to-one basis. But for now, let's actually open up the interview to Lisa. And Lisa, her business is Sacred Ground and Space. So welcome to you today.
Thank you, Deb. And welcome everyone that's watching.
Yeah. Sacred Ground and Space. I've always loved that name of your business. Can you just explain a little bit about the inspiration of why you called your business that?
I started my business 2 years ago. I think that it came to me in a dream, actually, from memory. Yeah, I think that exact wording, and I kind of woke up, and this is maybe a year before I started my business, and I was like, what? Sacred Ground and Space, what? Fine, I'll write it down. So I wrote it down, and then when I had to come up to making a business name, I'm like, oh, that's what that was. A year later or so. So then I had to look online, because there's so many names that are already taken, and that one wasn't. So I was like, sweet, yeah, that's it.
That's it. And since you've lived into it now for a couple of years, what do you feel like it resonates? What does it mean by sacred ground and space?
I think it's a place where you can come and feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
A place where, I set up an area in which you step out of the mundane and into a place that's a place of power. I think that the space element would have to represent the cosmos. So the sacred ground is the earth, and the space is the cosmic energy.
That's amazing. And because you do a lot of work with the sacred geometry, but prior to that, you were also in visual arts. So you've been quite a while a creative artist.
Yeah. Like, people ask me sometimes, like, how long have you been making art for? And I'm like, I remember when I was like 3, picking up a paintbrush or doing finger painting or whatever. So it's just like, I don't think it ever stopped. But my actual study into it began maybe 11 years ago, and I've done like a series of different courses along the way.
And your talk today is sacred geometry and the magic symbols.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you first stumble upon sacred geometry?
I think that I started to realize that it was there maybe about 5 years ago now. I was with a friend of mine in Townsville, and he showed it to me, and then when I saw it and I saw how interconnected that it is with different things, I was just like, wow, why don't more people know about this? It's just because it's there, and it's probably not until it's brought to your attention do you see it. When you do, you start seeing it everywhere.
So can you just explain to someone that may not know what sacred geometry is, just a little bit about when you first discovered it?
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like?
Oh, thinking back years now. I just I'm inspired and instant fascination to know more. I just like, wow, there's so much a wealth of knowledge, and because like I'm the kind of person who's a knowledge seeker, and I always want to know that little bit more. And it's such a vast topic, and it's such an ancient topic, and it's infinite. So, it kind of satisfies my thirst for knowledge. But I guess one of the best places to start, when we're researching about sacred geometry as a flower of life. because it's, you know, found all over the world in heaps of different religions. It's one of the oldest sacred symbols known to man. It's a You know, the flower of life is a geometric shape that has multiple overlapping circles of the same size.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you see it, you would see it a lot like within the wellness communities. It's one of its earliest depictions, though, is from a temple at Abydos in Egypt, so that's quite ancient. And it's funny though, because I was looking, I think I was on Facebook, and I was just having a look at you know, some people's comments about a band and releasing an album cover with a flower of life on it, and they're like, oh, this other band did the same thing, oh, they're stealing it from them. And it's like, wait, no, this thing's been around for thousands of years. So, you know, it just shows that yeah, this is starting to become prominent again in our consciousness, and it makes me wonder why it's having such a big influence again.
Mm. And do you have a theory around the vibration of sacred geometry and how that can help us?
Yeah. God, where do I start? There's just so much information that, like,
just a little bit. There's such a, as you said, such a vast topic, but it'd be nice for someone that's, you know, just learning a little bit, just to understand a little bit about, you know, it's more than just a pretty picture.
Yeah, for sure. Why is it sacred? Yeah, well, from my best understanding, because once you notice sacred geometry is everywhere within nature, it shows the interconnectedness with all things, from microcosm to macrocosm. It's the patterns in which spirit flow. It's just it's a visual representation of the form that spirit takes.
Wow. Thank you. I love how you've captured such an ancient, vast topic into a couple of sentences there, Lisa.
Yeah, it's just like in a real short version. But, you know, there's lots of diagrams and further explanations that can be found online.
Definitely. But what you've said there too is that when people start to explore, they'll realize that the whole world is sacred geometry.
Yeah, that's it. Everything, even, like, you know, it kind of crosses over with physics, and especially quantum physics as well. So, like, you know, it's mathematics, it's science, it's within that realm, and this is where it marries the two. And I think that, you know, within such a logical society, you know, it gives that bridge between those two different, you know, halves.
And maybe that's the reason why it's starting to come back into our awareness, because I believe that we're going through a time in our lives where, you know, we are now starting to reclaim that, getting that balance back of the logical and the intuitive, or the feminine and the masculine. Do you feel that that's part of why perhaps it may be coming more into our awareness, that we're becoming more aware of how that interconnects?
Yeah, for sure. It's all speculation. Anything's possible.
Well, you know, it's always worthy of speculating every now and again, but it just seems interesting. As you said, the sacred geometry was there, it took a bit of a way, and now it's starting to come back again. I always believe if something's becoming more into our awareness, there's a reason for that to be happening.
Yeah. This is what sometimes it's like. What we can speculate and try to understand as best we can, but in the end, like, the ultimate divine plan or the God mind or whatever the higher consciousness is, we can barely fathom it with our human minds. I think we get to grasp it at times.
That's a fair point. So you actually work with sacred geometry, but your topic is around that and magic symbols.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you want to expand on that for us?
Yeah, well, sacred geometry being the underlying, you know, structural patterns for all, like, most symbols. I'd say all, in some way, shape, or form, you can relate them back to sacred geometry. So the reason why I picked magic symbols is because of my love of the esoteric arts and of magic. Kind of that's how this whole thing started. I started practicing magic about 20 years ago. So this is kind of where this comes from. And I say magic symbols as to, you know, say that not only are these sacred geometric symbols spiritual in nature and a bridge, they also hold power. anything that's been around in the collective consciousness for a long period of time holds power, because we all have an attachment or a belief or an idea in these symbols. And when we use them within Magick, they're already empowered to some degree.
Wow. So when you say you've been doing Magick for the last 20 years,
yeah,
what is Magick?
Magick is the ability to change in conformity with will. That's the short version.
Okay, do you want to give me the long version? What do you mean?
Well, it's about, say for example with spellcasting, because there's all different forms that Magick takes. Mm-hmm. You can do ritual magic, spellcasting, like, petitioning to deities. There's lots of different forms that Magick takes. And, following, from what we can learn from other people's practice of Magick, of the ancient, teachings of Magick, and incorporating it into our lives, we can use these magic tools, which come in the form of symbols or talismans or things like that, as part of the Magick practice. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're wanting to bring abundance into your life, you'd use a symbol that's already resonant with that kind of concept. And it's really easy to access. Like, we live in an age of technology, and people used to have to travel for miles and study for years in these grimoires to find this ancient magical knowledge. Now we can just access it online really quickly. So that's a really good way to start to use these symbols if you want to get a better understanding. That's just one component. I think that Magick doesn't have any power unless you put the right kind of intention into it. And the more pure the intention, the more, simple, the more from the heart, the more power it will have.
So would you, from what you've just said then, would affirmations be a form of Magick?
Well, I think the affirmations come from the mind. And mind is quite powerful. It's a powerful tool. There's these hermetic principles and universal laws that go along with Magick. One is the principle of mind, and knowing everything that's mind. I think that's an aspect that you could put into a Magick ritual, say it as a chant. I don't think it's the entirety of it, though.
Okay. So affirmations or connecting with the mind, using symbols is giving that power, because that symbol is holding the energy of past collective consciousness around it as well, and then bringing that to with a pure intent to attract or to attract into your life, or dispel out whatever it is that you want to bring into your world. Is that in a nutshell what? Like, I'm exploring it with you, because I'm just trying to sort of unpick what you mean when you sort of say Magick.
Yeah, something along those lines. It's about setting intention and changing things in conformity with your will. Okay. And however you do that, through ritual magic, through spellcasting, through affirmations as part of yourselves, or magic rituals and things like that. It's all part of creating magic.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So Lisa, why are you so passionate about sacred geometry and magic symbols?
I don't know. Sometimes you just have a natural resonance with something. It gets naturally drawn towards something, and you just you can feel it within yourself of the kind of a knowing of truth, and knowing that, if I want to be able to use my Magick, I'll use the tools that I have at my disposal, and these are tools that I resonate with. Everyone has their own flavor of Magick, I think. That are spiritual healers or creative minds, and everyone's got their own different flavor, and this is just mine. I found what worked for me.
For you. So, okay, if someone's listening to the interview today, they clearly are interested in the topic. They're curious about geometry. They may or may not be practicing with magic symbols. So if they were just curious and they wanted it to the next stage, what would be some of the tips that you could share with them about how to explore this part?
Um, well, like I said before, you can go online. There's just so much stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
Just type in "flower of life sacred geometry," hit enter, and there's just like pages, and there's so many images and so many different interpretations of it. So, the internet's definitely a great place for it. Another thing after that point, after kind of getting familiar with the symbols and their meanings and other people's meanings, is to draw your own. Connect with geometry yourself by drawing it yourself, and it is quite easy to draw. Like all you need is a ruler and a compass, and some nice paper and some pens or pencils, and there you go. And that's just the second part of being able to connect with it yourself. I think the rest just explains itself. Once you get into the mode of creating it, once you've learned a little bit about it, the rest will unfold just intuitively.
Okay, so we've got Despina today talking about mandalas. Would a mandala be something in that sort of frame?
Yeah. I've like a lot of the imagery I've looked at. Like even if you look at the different chakras in the body, and the imagery around chakras, the heart chakra's got like a Star of David within it, like a 6-point star. And the 6-point star is a two-dimensional representation of a third-dimensional object, which is the Merkaba. So the sacred geometry is within all of the mandalas anyway. Even like using, you choose like when you're creating a mandala, like you'll have a set amount of petals around the outside that will kind of go out from there. You're using a numeric system as well. If you overlay any kind of like well-known ancient mandalas over the flower of life or other geometry like seed of life or Metatron's cube, you'll see how it all kind of marries up.
And I've noticed that you've got one.
It's underlying.
Sorry, what was that?
It's underlying. So sacred geometry kind of underlies all the other stuff.
So as you said, you could look at it, a particular image, you could unpick it, and there may be several sacred geometry shapes coming together as they're creating that. Now I'm picking stuff all the time. I'm noticing on your shirt you've actually got your artwork on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I am. This is one of my t-shirts.
This is beautiful. So to explain to a little bit about what that is.
Oh, this is the Merkaba. So I was just talking about it. Just I'll stand up so everyone can see it. It's like I said, it's a three-dimensional representation of the Star of David, and it's powered by love. The Merkaba, the very earliest writings about it come from the Bible and other places in history before that, and it's called the Chariot of Fire. So what it's known to do is to be a light body vehicle which will help us travel interdimensionally. I know it sounds a bit out there, but there's a lot of teachings on this, and I've only barely scratched the surface myself.
So some of the shapes that I've heard so far is the flower of life, the Merkaba. You also talked about the Star of David. So people wanting to go into Google, would there be other shapes, sacred geometry shapes that you would say would be a good start?
Metatron's cube is another good one. You'll see that there's a lot of representations of that and how the Platonic solid structure overlays on that as well. What else? Seed of life, and the Fibonacci spiral being a massive one.
Okay, could you just explain a little bit about that one? Because just of your response there, it's intrigued me.
Fibonacci spiral follows the mathematical equation of pi. I was looking for a notebook of mine, and I had like a whole big thing that I wrote about this on it. But the best way I can describe it is even if you look at your own hand and the way that the bones in your fingers laid out and just the sections of geometry, how it decreases, that's the ratio of pi. This within the own structure of your hand within our body. So it's that spiral follows that same mathematical decreasing or increasing in size as it spirals around.
Wow! And you may not know this, so I'm throwing you a question that you may not be, and that's cool. But it just popped into my mind that picture of Leonardo da Vinci and how that goes into different measurements. And for the Da Vinci Code, that movie, they were talking something about that as well as about the sizes of the arms to the forearms to the legs to the knee. Like that in itself is, again, using those principles of sacred geometry. Is that where that was coming from?
Yep, we are sacred geometry.
It's as you said, a very, very vast topic and very very hard to capture in a 30-minute conversation. But still, thank you for sharing some of those things. So one of the tips that I had down here that you wanted to talk about was patterns having power. Do you want to expand on that for us a little bit?
I'm just looking over my notes that I wrote. And I think the patterns were in relation to sacred geometry patterns. Okay. They often repeat themselves, like the Fibonacci spiral, and the patterns that come from that are seen all throughout nature. So I'm just thinking that these patterns keep repeating themselves. They've got to have some kind of power, because this is how our reality is constructed.
And as you said, but at the start, it's the way that spirit is actually weaving, and I suppose in some respects creating our reality.
For sure.
So from your perspective, the sacred geometry, the power of the magic itself, if someone wanted to work with that, your suggestion is to explore it.
Yeah, explore it. If you have an interest in it, keep exploring. There's oodles of information to find. Like, I know that lately crystal grids following like the seed of life or the flower of life have been very popular too. If you're not really into full-blown esoteric practice and you just wanted to do something to connect, and you're not really confident with drawing, you can set up crystal grids if you're a fan of crystals too, just following those patterns and just exposing yourself to them, just looking at them and meditating on them. People have been doing it for thousands of years. If you look at the Sri Yantra, that's a perfect example of sacred geometry having such a massive influence and people using it as a meditation tool.
What is that, Lisa, what you just touched on?
I'm going to grab you a picture because it's hard to explain this one. Hang on a second. This is a Sri Yantra. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay, yeah, we can. Okay, so there's lots of different sort of triangles, both up and down, and then there's circles, and then there's further sort of like, I don't know, what are they, formations?
It's mainly the thing in the middle, like with the triangles. That's a Sri Yantra. It comes from Hindu religion, right? And it represents the Shiva into Shakti.
Which is
into the earth, intermingling, and the enlightenment and the center and its consciousness.
Okay, so when you sort of say that, that's bringing in both, is that the aspects of bringing in the heaven and earth and bringing that together?
Yeah, bringing in the heavens to the earth, and the marriage of the masculine and feminine to create, a non-duality and a unity and a oneness within yourself. That's the Sri Yantra. I'm sure there's because it's such an old symbol, there's probably so many different meanings people have placed upon it, and that's just the one general meaning that I can kind of understand it to be.
So for someone that sort of is curious, like obviously I'm sort of thinking practically from today's topic, one is to go into an internet, maybe explore some of the shapes, sacred geometry shapes that you've connected with. You're probably going to be guided to what resonates. And then there's different ways to work with it, isn't it? You can create them, you could draw them, you can meditate on them. I suppose the fact that you're even researching it, you can become observant in nature to see where it may actually fit. Like, are they some of the things that you could suggest people could do if they wanted to bring this into their awareness?
Yeah, for sure. All those things are a great place to start. And I think once you start with sacred geometry, because it's everything's so interconnected with it and it all flows together, once you start with it, it just snowballs. It just everything kind of interconnects, and your interest in the flower of life might turn into an interest in like the platonic solid of the dodecahedron all of a sudden. Like it's kind of it will take you on its path wherever it goes.
Mm. And then you're one of our creatives in our community. So and you've shown your T-shirt. So you've brought that into your artwork.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a massive inspiration in visionary art. So my kind of painting art practice really took off about 3 years ago. I went and did a diploma of visual arts at TAFE, and really got back into painting and really started exploring sacred geometry in relation to my artwork. Before it was just a little bit more surrealist, because I've been inspired by Salvador Dali and Australian artist James Gleeson, as well as visionary artists William Blake, and more recently Alex Gray, and another Australian artist who's from America is Adam Scott Miller. I was lucky enough to go on an art retreat at the beginning of the year and learn some techniques from this person, and learn more about visionary art, because in visionary art, sacred geometry might not be the main theme, but it's often in there. Like if you just typed in visionary art or visionary artist into Google, you'd start to see some sacred geometry coming through there and a theme of it as well. So that's been like a massive inspiration for me as other artists and what they do, as well as the expression of my own connection with the symbols and shapes.
Mm. So Lisa, listening to you speak, and obviously having some of our creatives doing these interviews, a lot of people are saying that it's the way they're able to truly express who they are. I find sometimes even the interview quite challenging, but when they're in their artwork, when they're immersed, they're able to really express what's within them. Do you share that kind of experience?
Yeah, I think I do with everything that I create. If I'm painting anything and it's expression of me, no matter what it is, it just comes out in the forms of what I'm passionate about, the messages that I like to share with people, the hidden mystery behind everything too. And I guess that's part of me. Part of what I create is mystery. I must be somewhat mysterious.
And you said your inspirations in your artwork, one of them was Salvador Dali, who I have to say, when I was doing my work in art studies, I really loved his the surrealism, the dreamlike quality of his work.
Yeah.
So to go from there to to sacred geometry and now to visionary art, do you see a natural flow? Do you see a connection to where he was in him seeing, in some respects behind the veil of reality to now getting to the point of like the molecules of reality with sacred geometry?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I do understand that the nature of what Salvador Dali has done and the nature of the kind of imagery that visionary artists create, definitely there's differences between the art styles, definitely, but the main theme is it's about exploring the subconscious and what's beyond our conscious mind and what's beyond the ordinary reality. Salvador Dali used dreams, or things that come from the deep subconscious to create his artwork. Visionary artists will use dreams also, and sometimes visionary plants to help them, to connect with the visual imagery. I don't think that maybe this art style was different, but I'm not sure the methodology was so different.
For someone that didn't understand the question, you answered it really well.
Really? Oh, good. This is something I could rant about for a while, so that's all good.
No, because for me, I'm just sort of trying, I understanding that work and then understanding where you're coming from. It's like it seemed to be that they were exploring something. There was a thread, and I think the thread is what you're saying is they're exploring the unconscious.
For sure.
Or what is not, physical. They're in the physical, but it's not sort of obvious to us. So, so from a visionary arts perspective, has that been around for a while? Or is that something that's emerging now?
Visionary art's ancient.
Really?
Even like the hieroglyphics on temples in Egypt,
Ah,
it's visionary art. This artwork was about them connecting with their gods and going to these dreamlike states through heavens, the underworld, to meet with deities to become their god selves. Like, the earliest art was visionary art.
wow. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Right?
Obviously, I need to polish up on my art skills when it comes to visionary art. But okay, so from my perspective, then you've touched on lots of subjects, and as you said, it's quite a vast topic.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you've still got more to explore from an artist's perspective?
I barely scratched the surface. I'm forever learning something new. As soon as it kind of takes me down a certain path, I'll start exploring something I haven't yet, and I'll be like, "Wow, how did this slip past me?" And then different things come into your conscious awareness as you need them. You just got to be open and be willing to receive the knowledge and willing to seek it out too.
Mm. So to me, that would be that last piece of all the tips we've said is if someone is listening to the video, you've touched on a few things, is to go and explore. And as you go to explore, it will expand and grow, and you'll get the information as and when you're ready to receive it.
Yeah, I think that's like anything in life.
Mm-hmm. So Lisa, our summit's called the Lighten Up Summit.
Mm-hmm.
What does lighten up mean to you?
Well, lighten up, it inspires me to think more about the nature of light and how it's seen in contrast to shadow. We need to consider that shadow is just as important as light, for it's in darkness in which light is actually able to exist. It has to illuminate something. You can't have one without the other. Talking more about the shadow, it's the unknown and the unknowable realms and parts of ourselves that is not yet realized. So, the shadow can manifest as illusion, as delusion, as mystery, as the unconscious, as hidden emotions and traits of our ego that we also, reject or resist, and other various dark aspects. And when we find ourselves lost in shadow, we just need to connect with our truth, and this connects us with our light and our faith, and then we can illuminate our way and see what needs to be seen. And sometimes it's only by entering this darkness can we find our light and make the unconscious conscious. So in short, I think to lighten up is to illuminate darkness.
Beautiful. So how do you light yourself up?
I think that when I start making artwork, so I'm just looking at what I wrote because I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, so what lights me up? When I'm resisting a creative process, or I'm kind of hitting that kind of lower vibrational times in my life, all I have to do is begin. Just start. Just begin without overthinking, without doubt, without giving excuses to myself or procrastinating. Every time I just begin creating, everything flows effortlessly from there. And that brings my expression back, which connects me to my truth, which connects me to my heart.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lisa. So really, I suppose the message that I've got out of all that is to light yourself up, is just to begin, to start, and then to allow it to flow through.
Yeah, just. Mm-hmm.
So
sure.
For people that are listening today and they would like to connect with you, be it we've touched on sacred geometry, we've touched about magic, we've talked also about a whole lot of other things that visionary art. If any of that resonates with them, what's the best way to connect with you?
You can find me on my website at lisajwinter.com. I also have a couple of Facebook pages, and my business page is Sacred Grounded Space. Also, I'll be running a workshop on the 1st of October in Wollongong for uncovering the mysteries of sacred geometry. And I do run regular workshops every few months or so, and I'm often at markets. So I'll be down in Wollongong for a little while, and here in southwest Sydney, I also go to bush festivals and different events such as Embrace Life, an amazing festival. And yeah, so people can also contact me for private consultations via my website or Facebook.
Wonderful. So thanks for your time today, Lisa. As Lisa was saying, if there's anything in particular that resonated to you today, then first off, head over to the events page, ask those questions there. Let's get some dialogue happening. There's been a lot been touched on, so there may be some questions you might want to share. Alternatively, if you would like to connect with her one-to-one, then you can go to her website, and that's lisajwinter.com. On Facebook, it's in her business name, which is Sacred Ground and Space, and she's both on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you go over to the website, you'll get some details of her workshop on the 1st of October and any of the upcoming events and workshops that she'll be covering. Thanks again for your time today, Lisa, and I hope everyone's enjoyed knowing a little bit more about sacred geometry and magic symbols.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for listening, and thank you so much, Deb. I could read about this forever, so I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.